The SPC Gear GK540 Magna Kailh Brown RGB is available for around $58 and offers a sturdy construction with a metal plate under the keycaps and full RGB LEDs implementations within each mechanical switch. Speaking of switches, the GK540 Magna is available in 3 different versions depending on the switch you use: red, blue and brown, all made by Kailh. In this review we have the Kailh brown switch variant. But is it any good? We start with the packaging, and this keyboard, even though it is supposed to be on the cheaper spectrum of the market, it is well protected inside its cardboard box. There are soft, high quality foam holders on both edges of the keyboard, and the keyboard itself is wrapped in a soft, almost like plushy bag. Way to go, SPC, especially since I've had keyboards that were at double the price, which came in cardboard with a plastic grocery bag as protection. So these things will count in our review. The accessories are minimal but important. You get a useful user manual which describes all the functions of the keyboard and the software, and of course the key combinations to change everything. You also get a keycap remover made from hard plastic, which is of high quality. The aforementioned keycap remover is attached to the back of the keyboard, so you will not be losing this thing anytime soon. To get a hold of the keycap remover, simply slide it to the left. Now let's get a closer look at the GK540 Magna, shall we? It has a standard layout with a total number of keys at 104. Of course, this keyboard also has the anti-ghosting feature, also known as full N-key roll, over USB of course. But more on that later on into the testing section of this review. The Magna has a weight of 1.18 kilograms, thanks to the usage of a metallic plate that covers the front side of the keyboard body. Thankfully, this plate does not have a brushed texture which will attract fingerprints like a magnet. It has a matte black finish. In addition, the usage of a metal plate also increases the overall stiffness of the keyboard, the flexing of the body being minimal. And let me point it out to you that you have no idea what hell is to live with a keyboard that has a brushed metal texture. The fingerprints cannot be removed completely and it just is a pain. And having a matte black finish on the metallic plate is a godsend, especially at this price point. Moving under the keyboard, we see that this affordable model is packing a lot more punch than we are led to believe. First of all, we have an integrated cable channel which goes into 3 ways for routing the cable. This is quite peculiar, as you often have this feature on expensive Mach gaming keyboards, but I'm glad to see it here. The point of these channels is to route the cable of the keyboard with ease and out of the way for, say, a monitor stand, or if you just want to have that cable outside of your view. Second of all, we have plenty of rubber pads on the underside, which not only protect your desk against scratches and whatnot, but also will prevent the keyboard from sliding around. But don't believe for a second that we are done here, as the Magna has rubber pads on the 2 adjustable feet. You heard me right, it has rubber pads on the actual feet, which is quite nice indeed. Speaking of the height adjustment, the 2 feet will raise the keyboard by 14 mm. This means that when the feet are folded, the keyboard has a height of 36 mm, and when fully extended, it has a height of 50 mm. The cable has a length of 1.8 meters and is covered in hard textile sleeving, which is also braided. The flexibility of this particular cable, I would rate it from a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being very stiff and 10 being very flexible. This cable is pretty much alright. The keyboard uses a USB 2.0 connector that is also gold-plated, mind you, for increased reliability. There is also a plastic cap which is attached to the connector and to the cable, and which is also way too tight, but that's just nitpicking on my side. Now we can talk about the switches, and the mechanical switches used by the GK540 Magna are manufactured by Kailh and can be the brown, red and blue models. The keyboard features in this review, as I've said previously, uses the Kailh brown switches, which have an actuation force of just 55 grams, and they sound like this. Before we go into the LEDs and how the RGB is on this keyboard, we have to go deeper into how this thing works to figure out the overall quality. Which is why I have been doing, after removing more than 10 screws, we can get to see the PCB of the Magna, and it is nice, with good soldering points across the board, pun intended. The center of the Magna is the Vision VS11K09A USB microcontroller, a controller that has little to no information about it available on the web. The other controller present on the PCB, presumably an LED controller, is also made by Vision and is called VS01. Another thing to note is that the USB cable is connected to the PCB through a simple 4-pin connector. The usage of a connector and not directly soldering the cable to the PCB makes the replacement and servicing of the entire USB cable and connector assembly much easier. The software used on this keyboard is pretty simple with a straightforward interface. At the top you can change the lighting patterns and you have plenty to choose from, as in 18 different lighting modes, plus one additional mode that you can customize and have basically whatever you want. Then you have the usual settings for the lights, the brightness and the speed. At the bottom you can switch the USB report rate or the pulling rate, makes no difference, from 125 Hz to 1000 Hz. Of course, you also have the macro page that allows you to customize the buttons, and that's pretty much it for the software. It works and it does its job. The testing is pretty straightforward. We start first with Aqua's test software, which will highlight the number of keys registered at the same time. And as you can see, the Magna stays true to its promise, being a full N-key rollover keyboard. This means that you can press more than 6 keys at the same time, which is pretty nice, especially for those games that require multiple key pressed for a special move or who knows what quests. The lighting is pretty good, albeit the LED brightness could have been higher. Nevertheless, each switch has its own LED integrated into the switch housing, which allows for a more uniform distribution of the light and colors. And overall, the RGB lighting is good and you have plenty of modes to choose from and keep you busy until next year. The SPC Gear GK540 Magna Kailh Brown RGB, quite a long name for a keyboard, is an affordable keyboard that uses mechanical switches and has a good build quality, both when we talk about the internal components and the surface of the PCB, and also when we talk about the plastic body and the metal plate that is under the switches. At this price point, there are not a lot of keyboards that use true mechanical switches and RGB implementation, not even talking about metal in the construction or full macro support out of the box. The Magna, however, offers that in a standard layout that is familiar to everyone. If you like this review, perhaps you can consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell for more, and also check out the Patreon page, which helps me out in buying better equipment and have a better quality overall. Happy holidays!